So maybe we can move on just in the order of seating. So Giada, please, your turn.
Hi, I am from the European Civic Forum, and the European Civic Forum is a network of over 100 associations from across Europe. And it was created in 2005, just after the failed referenda for a European constitution. Already back then, we had the feeling that civil society had to play a role in shaping the European democracy that we wanted to see. So our members are very diverse, both in modus operandi, field of action, in size, and the ECF was created to have a space where we can share and discuss what we have in common, which is the values we stand for: democracy, equality, and solidarity. But also, since the beginning, we wanted to channel these values in the European policies to make sure that they embodied these values through the active and meaningful participation of civil society at the European level. So the concept of a European participatory democracy is embedded in the treaties in Article 11, which explicitly requires the EU institutions to engage with citizens and representative associations through appropriate means in all areas of action. This includes the top-down consultations that we see are carried out regularly, but also more advanced models of participation, which in jargon we call civil dialogue. So what is civil dialogue? Civil dialogue means that civil society is structurally and formally engaged throughout the entire cycle of the EU law and policy making, not only in Brussels, but also at the national level, as I was hearing before, and not only on thematic issues, but also on transversal and programmatic issues and agenda setting. This calls for civil dialogue is a long-standing demand of the European civil society. We had supportive initiatives also from some EU institutions, the ESC opinion, the European Parliament reports and resolution, and now we have the conclusions on the Conference of the Future of Europe. But where do we stand with civil dialogue? Or maybe let's take a step back. Why do we need the civil dialogue? Well, civil dialogue means that organized civil society can participate in the policy making, and this is really crucial at the European level because the EU policy making is so technocratic that we need organizations to facilitate the connection between citizens and policymakers. At the European level, we also have tools for direct participation, the European Citizens Initiative, for example, but these are not functioning because they are so complicated and there is no meaningful follow-up. So the civil dialogue could really support the upscaling of European democracy from the national level to the European one. Where do we stand today? Despite all the calls, despite all the arguments, we still face long-standing gaps in the participation, consultation, and involvement of civil society in the EU policy making. And this is true both at the European and at the national level. We recently had a study by the European Civic Forum and Civil Society Europe, which looked at what are the current practices for dialogue. And what we saw is that there is no rule. The civil dialogue is very patchy and fails to meet the basic standards for openness, transparency, accountability, but especially it's not sustainable and structured in nature. And one of the main reasons for this is that we lack an overarching policy framework that would regulate and set common basic standards for this dialogue to happen. So what we see is that dialogue or involvement of civil society changes from one institution to another, and often even inside the same institution, it really changes. So sometimes there are very informal ways of involving civil society. Sometimes they are very formal, but not necessarily participatory. And we want to overcome this. So some example of where do we see the problem? We just heard the SERV. Why do we have all these problems with the SERV? Because there was no meaningful way to engage civil society in the shaping of this tool that is meant to support civil society. And not only how it functions, but also the priorities of the program. Another example is, we will hear shortly, the Conference on the Future of Europe, which was supposed to be a very a catalyst for new ways of participation at the European level, but there were many limitations, including in no way organized civil society was included in the shaping, in the planning, and in the setup of the conference. We can still see a partial success in the story of the conference because we, civil society, proactively organized, but we had to fight for our seat at the table. There is also, of course, what we were hearing, a need to better link national level organizations with the processes. For example, the European semester or EU law when it reaches the national level. Why is civil society not consulted? So these are all the issues, and maybe we will go in the next panel to discuss what we propose to change this. Thank you.
Thank you.